Welcome. I'm so glad that you can join me here today. 231, pages 594 and 95 and 96. And this is lesson 202. From the Sovereign Light, named after my ministry, A Course in Metaphysical Spirituality. And my name is Reverend Maria Arvanitides. How do you do? And won't you find a place most comfortable that you can find your center and release all anxiety, all grievances, anything that might push or pull you into past or future, and bring yourself 100% here with your breathing. May you recalibrate to leverage with every relief from every breath that you bring in deeper your consciousness from the top, and find that sinking in feeling within your heart, and from the root, all from the soles of your feet, all the way up, and bring outward. And breathing. You may opt to have your eyes closed or open. It's entirely up to you and the level of comfort and trust here today. And as we continue to be the ocean, the self must also learn to understand and recognize the many ripples of its vastness along the way. And with that said, repeat these words with me for today to strengthen you some more into the process that you may be guided through for the purpose of ascension. Let's begin. I respect all things and do not wish to compare the value of one side over another. I respect all things and do not wish to compare the value of one side over another. I respect all things and do not wish to compare the value of one side over another. Feel it, say it, and hear it. I respect all things and do not wish to compare the value of one side over another. Manifesting from a light body of consciousness is different than manifesting from divine excitement. Upon awakening, the field will clear, and during this awareness, electromagnetism is the law. It will attract from that which it thinks. When it transcends and expands again into the level of sovereignty, it thrives from a place of authentic expression, exploring and responding with the infinite dance of golden radiance. Manifesting is imprinted upon from its awareness to it, and transmission from this inner vision out into external field. Eventually, the level of it becoming the mirror, it will no longer have mirrors to manifest for it in this way. When the ascension process has already occurred, you can hear that. And so when it has already occurred, this ascension process within the self, then this tool can become, and from even previous terminology, to transcribe an even better read of this here book. So when you go through it again from a different level, you will see it differently, like everything and anything else. To be on a frequency of having to tense up into something serious, let's get serious now, is to take sides and viewpoints to defend that can be of cause to stand with karma in a dualistic predicament. So what are we doing when we're forming boundaries and becoming the warrior and excluding different things from entering and fighting and standing up for ourselves? We're actually giving into enslavement. Eventually, that will be what will happen, because we're being in a dualistic, fighting one side over the other, while the bigger picture is in this gap that separates us into enslavement, into victim-perpetrator. So when we're fighting, we're in fact giving our energy to this higher power that is not of our own. And so we become distinct, and we form boundaries, and we fight, and we become in debt to the other side that we are giving that power to. And with that, we have to make up for it and be in lack. And then what happens? We become enslaved in one sense or the other. So respect is very important here. And I respect all things and do not wish to compare the value of one side over another. So eventually everything that is of the self will gravitate in the becoming of a sovereign light body, being, and yes, even going beyond the atonement to actually living in its illumination that it must come to revere. What is respect? How do you see respect? How do you feel it? Is it something that must be enforced upon us by the greater good of the collective that decides on from what opinion to be factual, and then we blindly believe this thing called blind faith, and then we wonder how come it forsaken us, how come it gave us up, why are we suffering, and who is feeding off this energy while we suffer? Well, respect from fear and enforcement by authorities that are also governed by this thing called currency and the credit system that is a circular encapsulation of the future you that you have come to soulfully contract and engage with, a contract, if you will, Is this something that you must be aware of and informed before you give consent to? And this is where, if you're listening, you might be gaining some knowledge and wisdom to discern with when it comes knocking at your door. What is respect? Today is all about taking the time to focus on the meaning of respect, and with this intention of what it means. What does it mean to you? Not what it means to others, but do you have a sense of respect for yourself and for others? And through what means? Is it through love or is it through fear? Is it authentic? Is it real? Or is it based on a collective opinion that claims it's fact, and therefore this false evidence appearing as real that you must contractually agree with to believe as real? Does respect come from these titles of public figure, of celebrity, of generations of lineage, of royalty, of prestige and caste systems? Does it come from a hierarchy? Does it come from a gender, a race, a culture that must be compared and evaluated and leveraged? Or is it a thing that we own individually to respect one another? Does respect come from pouncing on another to have them fear into it? Does it happen because of royalties and bloodlines? Is it made of currency to bind another with? Is respect the same with every species, and does it thrive or rely on the neediness to survive in a codependent relationship? Is it predatorial, and does it require to set for distinct protective boundaries? Can respect come from love? Or must it be of equal footing in the you own nothing and you like it, while others who hold the strings own everything, in the casting of classes that the ego mind authorizes for the world to set such standards to live by? You own nothing and you will love it as the new normal. When the world's exclusiveness stands for something, it stands in isolation from the self. And I respect all things and do not wish to compare the value of one side over another. Awareness of the brutal behaviors that from arrogance decipher to devalue for respect, that create this addiction to drugs and codependencies. This is the importance of accepting how we have chained ourselves to such false illusions to coordinate through a cooperative dynamic and with such relationships of the self. Does it make sense to go down to those levels so that to bring the world up just a little bit more forward than before? Yes. Without the rest of the world and the many, the self cannot move up further. This is equally stands true with the many of the world. And whatever ghosts from the past that own everything and want to control everything, just remember, they are of the past. And they are the authorities that everybody values, like idol worshipping, and worship these people who are from one generation to the next in royalty and in power and all these things. They are ghosts from the past, and their past currency and value that they bring into this world from the previous and the previous, they are of the past. They're not really of the present unless we give them that power, that energy from our own awareness, and become enslaved by them. And this, they hold our future. So are we going to allow that? As many steps that can be taken and then must wait or stress in the catching up for it, all the illusions, all these things will fall by the wayside, and naturally the equilibrium, not the controlled, but the connecting way through it. This is all that is of all that is, and really there is no other hierarchical to discriminate such illusions, hinder the ascension at a larger scale, to slow it down. And yet again, that too is of importance, because they are not happy either. They're possessed, and they repossess, and they just continue on like empty inside, like soulless. It's okay, but as long as we acknowledge what they are, and they just fall by the wayside, they no longer have that power over us unless we allow them and consent to that enslavement. So everything is all divinely synchronized for the awakened to help orchestrate what is natural and abundant that we might connect to, or what is of artificial intellectual property that we might bind ourselves to a synthetic way of hybridization and become a property of someone who controls us. And then, where are we standing in the fight for our rights and boundaries and all these things that separate us and have into many divisions of inner fighting that weaken our immunity? So today, the purpose is to learn discernment. And just breathe that in. Discernment, and with that, respect all things, and even more so the innocence that knows not of such nonsense to take seriously to heart. When you don't take these figures seriously, they disintegrate. So ultimately, respect is something that is generated from within, and is a presence of self-esteem that brings about confidence. Reverence can very well come naturally and very subtle to the touch, as to feel it from the inside and toward all that it becomes aware of. And so you can slowly start to come around, and with every breath, blink your eyes open. And with these final words, let's repeat them out loud together. I respect all things and do not wish to compare the value of one side over another. Let this be the motto of the day. Really feel it. I respect all things and do not wish to compare the value of one side over another. I respect all things and do not wish to compare the value of one side over another. and find the truth sense of what respect means to you, and respect yourself. And until next time, I hope to see you again to participate with me and your presence for day 232 on exploring the expansion of Ascension.